I was shocked when RAILA said that John Waluke should be released from his 67 years prison term. And he said the reason is that Waluke is in Azimio and he committed a crime. And that he mentioned a few names of people in Kenya Kwanza who are suspected to have committed crimes including murder, and that since they have been released, then Waluke should be released. This is the vintage RAILA, because to him he has always believed in the two leading coalitions dictating things to Kenya. You may also remember that during the BBI, one of the contested sections was that the leading coalitions do appoint members of the IEBC. Before 2010, the constitution was that the president was above the law. But after 2010, the president is only protected during his term of office. If you want to sue him or you want to arrest him or want to do anything, wait until he has completed his term and then you charge him. So nobody is above the law. And if it is true that the politicians mentioned are guilty and they were released on political grounds, then that is unfortunate. The purpose of recording this was to tell people what Waluke did. In my previous recordings, I have talked about Jacob Juma. Jacob Juma is an alumni of the school that I went for my advanced level, Bungoma High. I was there several years ahead of him. Actually, his guardian, one Jirongo, is my age mate. So I can say that I'm much older than the late Jacob Juma. Jacob Juma was a conman. He used to, but you know, when he died, it became political. And after me recording and saying Jacob Juma is a bad person, it then came that Lady Wahungu and John Waluke were jailed for over 60 years each for something that was the brainchild of Jacob Juma. If Jacob Juma was to be alive today, he would also be serving maybe 75 years in jail. Now what happened, at the time of recording this tape, we had an issue with at the time of recording this tape, we had drought in Kenya. It also happened several times ago, and many Kenyans are wondering when will we see this. And it is just too simple, because in one of my tapes I've shown that most of the countries you just need a borehole and a Yamaha. Why am I talking of Yamaha? It's because if you place the solar panels, maybe they'll be stolen at night. So instead of high turnover, maybe you'd use paraffin, petrol for the Yamaha to pump water. We had a drought, and there was maize shortage. Then the company owned by the three, among others, Jacob Juma, John Waluke, and Madam Wahungu, wanted to supply maize to Kenya. It was granted permission to supply 40,000 metric tons of maize to Kenya. So when it was given, later on it was denied supply. But when you look at the whole thing, it may have been a planned thing. Look at the case of 1 month, the last month of Uhuru's government. Several companies were one tender to supply, to bring cheap maize, but they didn't supply 8 billion shillings. So some of these things are just planned by the government. From the letter A, it is not even intended to supply that. So these people who won the tender, then later the tender was cancelled, and according to the agreement was that in case of any dispute, they go to an arbitrator. They went to an arbitrator who looked at the agreement, and the government was fined by the arbitrator a certain amount which was given. Now that amount is what is now bringing problems to them. But the documents that Waluke himself gave a receipt to, the arbitrator showing that they had bought maize in South Africa, placed it in a warehouse, and then the government cancelled the tender, and then they sold the maize. So what he was demanding for, what the company was demanding for, was the storage. You see, they had 40,000 metric tons of maize in a store in South Africa for a period, so they wanted a refund for the storage. But like all other tricks that has happened in Kenya's history, not even a gorogoro of maize had been bought or had been stored. So when the government was through the arbitrator, Alternative Justice System (AJS), when they were given the fine, they paid, and the person who gave an invoice, a receipt to show that they had stored maize in South Africa, was one John Waluke. Somehow later, I think it is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission sent somebody silently to South Africa with that receipt. It was written, certain street, a certain company. They sent somebody, Waluke and Jacob Juma had sent somebody to South Africa, and he had just photographed a certain place. You see, in certain shops and whatever, they write the addresses and telephone number and everything on the wall. So they took that picture, they came to Kenya, they went to River Road, produced a fake receipt. When they produced a fake receipt that maize was stored in that place, so the detectives went to South Africa, went to that company. That company said, we do not deal with anything to do with maize and whatever. We do not even know. We did not even invoice people, because according to Waluke, they had paid for storage of their maize for quite some time. Said, we don't have a store to store maize, and we do not know these people, and that is why Waluke was jailed. Now for Raila to come out and say that since he is in Azimio, he should be forgiven. He should have even said that we go to jail, look for all petty offenders who are remaining with 6 months or less, and release them, or even look for long-term. You know, somebody may have been jailed for 20 years and he has completed 15, but according to the prison department, he has reformed. Those are the people who are supposed to leave the prison so as we get more chance, more space for others. It is very much unfair for him to have said so. And Waluke, I'm a Bukusu like you. When you stole the millions from the government, you did not turn to Bukusu, or you did not turn to Bungoma for us to share with you. That was your own, and it is unfortunate that Raila is making those comments, trying to incite people of Bungoma to vote for Azimio. If then that is what Azimio is, wache izimie.